Hi, Joyce. Can you hear me?
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, this is David. How you doing today?
Good, how are you?
Good. Do you have your camera on your computer?
I have a problem. Sorry. Does this help? Is
Yeah.
that better?
Yeah. Um, Thanks for joining me today. I'm sorry about the email confusion there. I'm not sure what happened. Um,
Try on my end.
yeah, well, we got it figured out. So I'm a consultant on the IT team here at Crossroads. And like I said in the invite, it should be about 45 minutes, if that's okay, if you still have that amount of time.
Yes.
Do you mind if I record this session just for internal use?
No.
Okay. Um,
And
so
according to the email, there might be a couple of others joining us or not.
they are not. Those are some other people on my team, but they're super
Oh,
busy working on another project. So, and that's why I wanted to record this so I can kind of refer back to it and make some notes later.
okay. Can you
So
hear me okay?
yeah,
Okay,
yep. Um, so this will be kind of informal. I have some questions for you about your experience with the Kids Club onboarding process. The onboarding process being defined as um, the process of becoming interested in joining the Kids Club team all the way up to serving for the first time on the Kids Club team. So all the paperwork, the application, um, communication you had with team leaders and things like that leading up to serving for the first time as a official member of the team.
okay.
I've got some questions for you about your background at Crossroads, and then we'll dig into some Kids Club specific
Okay.
questions. So how long have you been attending Crossroads?
That's, that's something we keep trying to remember. It's been 10 to 12 years at least.
Okay. And besides Kids Club, are there any other things that you've been involved with at Crossroads?
Um, Very briefly, I was working with the what do they call it, the Whiz Kids India.
Okay.
But that I was oh gosh, no, I can't even remember her name, and she was wonderful. Um, I was working on curriculum, but it just didn't work out eventually. It was too much for me with all the other stuff I'm doing.
Okay. Um, any other things, groups you've been involved with, on-site groups, anything like that?
um, well, Whiz Kids, I work with City Gospel Mission Whiz Kids,
Okay.
but in that capacity, I was for a short while. I was an area director with the Whiz Kids program here, but that was quite a long time ago. That was when Terry Phillips was still involved and in charge of it way back when. So that's been a while
Okay.
ago.
All right. And so can you remember how you found out about those specific opportunities like Whiz Kids? Like how did you become engaged with that?
Um, how did I hook up with her? I believe now. I volunteer with onboarding with Kids Club on Mondays, right? Or did you not know that too?
I'm not sure if I did know that. That is good.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I guess that's the main reason why I was picked to call. I do work with Kids Club. I used to work with them on Tuesdays. I was the Tuesday person onboarding volunteers, and then their Monday person left, and it became I could help out more on Monday than I could on Tuesday, so I switched to Mondays. So basically, I've done those two processes. Basically, just when volunteers say they want to work with Kids Club, I communicate with them, getting their applications and their getting them in to observe and all the things they have to go through with that. Um, and right now I'm just kind of inputting, I'm just getting green cards and inputting who's attended KC 101 and who's attended, who actually came and observed Kids Club the previous weekend each time, and I just input that data into their database.
Okay, cool.
So that's my main thing, and I think both with the India Whiz Kids and also with Kids Club, it was a service ask, and cards were passed out for us to fill out if we were interested.
Okay.
I have an interest with kids. I cannot, it's very difficult for me to volunteer on weekends. And for a while, I did not volunteer for Kids Club because I thought that was all they needed were weekend people. And then my sister-in-law told me that she actually, in Florence, she was working during the week, I think with onboarding at the time. And I'm like, oh, you can do that too? I can do that. So I, the next time the cards went around, I wrote on it that I could only volunteer on weekends. And Kristen Luton contacted me about it and told me what was available and interviewed me, and I filled out an application, and away we went. And I've been doing that probably for maybe 5 years now.
Okay, great. All right. Outside of Crossroads, do you have any other interests as far as volunteering? And if so, you mentioned City Gospel Mission.
That's not I'm not volunteering with them. I'm actually part of their staff.
Okay, gotcha.
Their Whiz Kids team staff. I have an interest in volunteering at City Links. I have not pursued that at this point in time because I want to make sure I have the time amidst everything else.
Have you, even though you're not ready, pursued volunteering there in any way just to get the initial steps going there, or are you just thinking about it at this point?
For City Links, you mean?
Yeah.
I have not taken any steps. I figure once I want to do that, I will just contact them and tell them I'm interested. And I mean, I've heard, periodically I hear that they need volunteers to help them. So I'm not even sure in what capacity I could be really helpful. But I thought I'd contact them. And a friend of mine said she was undergoing the process. And she said, they'll find a place for you, what you can do and how you can help. And then you go through training and that kind of thing. But I haven't pursued that yet.
Okay. Next questions. You're going to score on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 being not at all satisfied and 5 being very satisfied. Where would you place yourself as far as your overall volunteering experience that you've had at Crossroads?
Oh, a definite 5.
Okay.
Volunteers are made to feel very appreciated, more so than I think I deserve sometimes.
Okay. So what made you decide to volunteer for Kids Club in general? Like, what was the motivation?
Well, I'm a retired teacher.
Okay.
So kids just, my ears perk up when I hear kids. And like I said, I was unable to do it on the weekend where I could actually work with the kids. But when I found out, well, I can at least give something during the week in the onboarding process, then I decided to do that. So
Okay.
probably just kids.
Okay. And how did you find out about volunteering opportunities with Crossroads? And I'm not sure if you mentioned that before.
How did I find out about what volunteering with Kids Club?
Right. Yeah. What piqued your interest? Like
It was a weekend service ask.
Okay.
And it might have been one of those things, I can't even remember exactly. It might have been one of those things where when you walk in the door, you got a card, and and then towards the end of the service, you said, you were asked if you are interested, then fill the card out, turn that in.
Okay.
So that was easy.
Do you recall the first step you took to join? Was it filling out that card, or was it?
It was filling out that card, because that's what got the person working, that Kristen Wooten, who was working in onboarding for Kids Club, that's what got her to connect with me.
Okay. And so what did it look like once you submitted that card as far as next steps?
And I was trying to remember that. If I asked Kristen, she'd be like, no, that's not what happened. But I'm thinking she called me, and I'm thinking during the week, I came to Crossroads and I met with her in the atrium, and she talked just to get a feel for, what I could do, and why was I in, just kind of a meeting of, what is it that you're wanting to do, and what can you do, and how can we fit you in, and that kind of thing. And she said that the person that was working on Tuesdays, I think she'd been working there 3 years, but she had to quit. And so Kristen was looking for someone that would take her place, and it seemed like I could fit that. So she asked if I would do that, and I said sure. And so she got me an application, which I filled out. I don't think it took that long to go through the process of that. I don't really remember how long that took, and I'm not even totally sure if I had to wait for that to be completed for me to start, because I wasn't with kids. I was in the office during the week. So I think I went ahead and started during that process, but I'm not sure about that either. I can't really remember. It's been a while.
Okay. Do you recall, and so as far as the process of joining, do you feel like the communication was pretty clear throughout the whole process of
The what?
the communication between
Oh,
you
the
and
communication.
leaders?
Yes, actually, the gal that was having to leave, I think she was moving out of town, but she was there the first 2 weeks that I started, and we sat right next to each other. And I actually did the work, but she was right there to answer all my questions, and I could see what she was doing and use her verbiage and understand all that. So that made it very easy for me. I know when she left, I was still nervous, but it went well.
Okay. What was your overall confidence level as you came onto the team? 1 being very unconfident and 5 being extremely confident. Go ahead.
Now I feel extremely confident.
Okay.
Are you saying when I first started?
Yeah, as you were just kind of ramping up, joining the team.
I'd probably give it about a 3. I felt like I could do the work, but I wanted to make sure that, I was actually communicating with these volunteers by email, and I wanted to make sure that my voice in those emails, and my wording in those emails, and the verbiage, and all that was on board with what Crossroads felt. I remember asking, like, can I say God bless you at the end of the email? Or, and sometimes if volunteers said they wanted to do it, but then it took forever to get them to actually step forward with it, how do I try to motivate them to actually do what they say they're going to do, to make their yes be yes without sounding judgmental or pushy or any of that kind of stuff. So there was I think in the beginning, I almost had to make a copy of every email that I sent, and my guess is that Kristen looked at them to make sure that that was all right, and I would ask her periodically, is it okay for me to say this or that? And she always said yes, it was fine. So I think in the beginning that was the only thing. I mean, I knew I could, I knew I could email them. I knew I could get in the process. I knew I could do all that. I just wanted to make sure I was on the same page.
Okay. Do you think there's anything that Crossroads could have done to train you a little bit more on that kind of stuff up front versus kind of learning as you go?
I can't think. I mean, like I said, I had the lady that left, she was with me for 2 weeks. Kristen was always there to ask if I had any questions. So, so I mean, if there was, if my three of incompetence is not because of what they were doing, it was within me. And I had gone to, I've been going to Crossroads for quite a while when I did this. And, and I just know that they're very inclusionary, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't want to turn any of the volunteers off with my verbiage or any of that kind of stuff. So that was all just coming from within me.
Okay. As far as your experience onboarding other new volunteer members, can you identify any ongoing hiccups around communication to those people, or ambiguity or confusion between you and the new volunteers about getting them ramped up and serving on a regular basis, aside from the email communication and things like that that you mentioned?
I mean, I also if emails wasn't doing the trick, I would sometimes make phone calls.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, ask your question once more.
Yeah, I don't know if it's not on my list of questions here, so I'm kind of making it up. But from your perspective of being on the onboarding team, are there frequent areas of confusion between you and the new volunteers as far as consistent things that you think could be improved, like the paperwork, the application process, information that's missing?
No, I think I think that the whole process of them onboarding, it's like it's like a conveyor belt kind of thing. I mean, the Monday people know what to do, and the Tuesday people know what to do, and the Wednesday people know what to do. I mean, the different days and the different people do different things. And first I was just checking to see, when they were going to come in next, or when were they going to get us their application, and can I send them one? And then when I went to Monday, it's just a matter of, getting the green cards and the KC 101 list and getting that all input into the database. Kristen would, every once in a while, she'd have a little luncheon where all the different days of the week, she'd invite us all together to have lunch together so we could meet each other and know, kind of feel more of a team than isolated.
Okay.
So, I mean, it worked. I mean, I think it goes very smoothly. And when Bethany Orr came on board, I guess she's a little bit more tech savvy than Kristen Wooten was, and she is the one that created a database that we, instead of doing everything by paper, which is kind of what we did in the beginning, I would write out everything that was going on rather than type it in somewhere. She created the whole database so that it became easier for, like, they could check it from home, they could get on it from home if they weren't there that time or whatever. So I think it became easier for them to be able to manage it as well. And if I had any questions, if they weren't there, especially on Mondays, most people don't come in on Mondays, and They were always there by either one of them. Kristen ended up going to West Side or East Side, excuse me. Ended up going to East Side when it opened, and then Bethany took over and basically not usually there Mondays. So, but they were always a text message away. So there was always somebody that could answer questions, and there are people there. Chris, and I'm not going to remember Chris's last name, but he's usually there to ask. And I mean, now they've got another gal that they brought on board for the summer just to get them through the summer. She's been awesome. So I think it runs pretty smooth. I don't know about for them because I know, they've got the weekends running around and I'm not doing all of that. But as far as onboarding during the week, I feel like that runs pretty much like clockwork.
Okay. You mentioned a database. Are you talking about ministry platform or something else?
No, it's a what are they? They have they have a master schedule for who was supposed to show up on the weekend and who actually did and who was there and who wasn't. Okay. And I need to pull that up, and then I also pull up their I guess they call it their tracking database, and it has all the names of all the different volunteers, and there's a running record of their observation history. How many times have they come in to observe, and how many times were they no-shows, and it has all of their information, their address and their telephone numbers and all that stuff in there. And did they attend KC 101? Did they turn in their application? Did their references respond? Have they gotten a hold of the references? So, each one of us, each person, whatever day we do something, it's kind of ends up all being there. Okay. So everybody can take a look at it.
Okay. And is that more of like a spreadsheet? Or?
It is a spreadsheet.
Gotcha. Okay. I think I've seen some of the things you were mentioning there. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to take a look at some of the sign-up forms and things like that, if I can get this to work.
Okay.
Are you able to see the volunteer application here?
Yes. This is the adult, because they have a separate one, I think, for kids younger than 18 or younger than 16 or something like that.
Yeah, I have that one as well. I think you might just take a look at this one. I just am interested in your feedback on this application form. I don't know if you actually end up seeing these or if you
I do not actually. That is somebody else's job to actually input the applications and get all that, get that over to the person who does references, and I don't do that part of it. And this is probably a lot different than the one I filled out years ago, but to tell you the truth, I can't remember.
Okay. I've given you control of my desktop, so if you could scroll through this thing. You don't have to go through it with a fine-tooth comb, but I'm just interested in the content that's being presented and the information that's being collected, especially with regard to your role as an onboarding person, or even looking at it from the perspective of someone signing up to be a volunteer. Any content that's missing or irrelevant or confusing. Just kind of getting an overall
okay
view from you.
This is interesting because this is almost like the card I filled out originally years ago when, when they passed out. This isn't what exactly it looked like, but these were the kind of questions it was asking. And I find it interesting that I assume this means that they get the application. I mean, this allows them to know better, and this would have been better for me. It would allow me to know that I could actually volunteer during the week, because originally I didn't realize I could do that. So that's good. That's a good addition. Um, this looks like it has all the information. I know from experience even with WizKids applications that sometimes people just fill it out in a hurry and don't really read everything.
Right.
Which is why I think KC 101 is so important, because I think KC 101 will explain the process and will also explain what are the commitments, and who can volunteer, how old do they have to be, and that kind of thing, and what different rooms can they volunteer in. I know, just because of working with the onboarding, that the people who do want to volunteer don't always follow the best linear way to get there. So they may just show up and say, I want to volunteer. So they may put them in to observe, but they haven't, and then they tell them they're told that they have to attend KC 101. But I know just from experience that some of them come in and we tell them and they're like, okay, I'll do that. And they end up, I guess, I don't know why. I guess they decide they would prefer to observe than to attend the training. So when they come in, they go to observe, and so it's hard to sometimes get them to get to KC 101, which is why I input when they do actually show up and when they're no-shows, so that they can go back and say, eventually, if somebody observes a couple of times and they haven't attended yet, I think they're told they can't observe anymore until they go to KC 101, because that's really important to tell them, what the real expectations are and the commitments. I also know how difficult it is to get them to turn these in. When I worked on Tuesdays, sometimes it would go on forever. And they would say, oh, I'll bring it next time. And then they didn't. And I would have to say, oh, I'm sorry, and I would keep sending it to them. And I think, and this I'm not real sure about, but I think they can actually fill it out online now, which might make it a lot easier for some of them. Maybe it's not so much of a deal anymore. I mean, I think everything that's on here is good. I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if they read it all. But yeah, it all needs to go in here. And I know I used to tell Kristen, sometimes I'm like, do you really want this person to keep observing if they are refusing to turn in an application? That just sounds like a red flag to me.
Yeah.
And I think they've gotten a little bit more stringent. In fact, I was just told in the last 2 or 3 weeks that they're kind of really getting a lot more strict boundary of attend KC 101, and they try to get them to fill the application out right then and there and turn it in. Okay. But often they come and they don't have all the information for the references, so they can't complete it because they don't have their reference contact numbers or emails or whatever. So I don't know really how. So if they can do it online, that makes it a lot easier.
Would you say there's a lot of drop off of people either not wanting to fill out the application and or attending KC 101, are those roadblocks?
Are they roadblocks to volunteering?
Well, are they roadblocks for people and not wanting to do those, and do those people drop off often? Um,
I think the majority of the people, it's not a roadblock to them. I mean, they just kind of, they just keep doing what they want to do until they're, somebody really corrals them. I know from the past, there were some people that didn't want to fill out the application because they were afraid that about something in their own personal life was going to keep them from being able to do it. And I know like Kristen or Bethany or whoever has made phone calls to these people and talked to them, sometimes even met with them and interviewed with them, almost counseled them as far as, what their worries are and whether that's relevant or not. And sometimes, I mean, there are certain things that that is a definite, sorry, you can't, which is, I think has to do with, where is it? These kind of questions, I think these kind of questions, there's no leeway. But there were some other things that, they could talk them through, and I don't know, like maybe somebody's not really, they believe in God, but they're not sure they believe in Jesus yet, but they're on their journey and they're wanting to, and just by talking to them and hearing them and letting them know what they're getting themselves into, sometimes they, I think, felt that was, them actually being with kids and talking about Jesus with kids actually helped themselves grow. So it was a growing experience for them, for the tutor or for the volunteer, as well as for this child. So I'm rambling. I'm sorry about that. So I don't think it's a block. I think it's necessary just to assure parents when they drop their kids off that, that the volunteers that are working with them they've got references and they've got, background checks and they're good to go, as, that Crossroads is doing due diligence with it. I think that's absolutely a necessity. So, and KC 101 is that's where I'm saying if they're not going to read all this, at least you can hear it there. So I think that's necessary too. I don't think it's a roadblock. I think it helps avoid problems down the road with people who don't know what the expectation is. I think somewhere in here it says something about, we hope you can do this at least twice a month, time commitment. And some of them say, well, I can't really commit to that. And they'll tell them, well, you can be a sub that comes in during events like Super Bowl Sunday or something. So they'll direct them to something that they can do. But I mean, Crossroads goes through a lot of due diligence and a lot of effort to make sure that they've got the right people in the right place. So I think I would hope that volunteers do feel a commitment, that they do feel that they, that this isn't just it would be nice if I could do this, but, if I can't, no big deal. I mean, I'm glad when they, I can always see the really dedicated people and they're awesome. But there's some that, I know there was one young person, I guess a high school person, that wanted to do it only until she had her community hours finished. So, there wasn't anything internal that made her want to do this. This was all just because school said they had to she had to have a community service. So she was trying to use Crossroads as that part of it. And that's just not the people they want there. So I think all of this is good.
Okay. Great. I'm going to close this one out. You mentioned this other thing, the onboarding. I don't know.
It's what we call the green card.
What are your thoughts on this? Any issues with it
Um,
or the process around getting these, etc.? Any feedback on this approach?
well, I guess the only problem is there's the volunteers when they start observing until they're cleared,
Mm-hmm.
um, until their references, their applications cleared and all, and they've observed at least twice and have chosen their team. Like if they're still up here saying, I want to try a different age group, eventually we want them to tell us what team do they want, what service times do they want. Once they've done that and observed at least twice and all of the application has been completed, um, they don't have to do this anymore. Um, but before then, this is extremely helpful. And like I said, this is what I do is check these against the master schedule and make sure that we have data saying that yes, they observed this area, this group at this time on this date. And this is really important because it lets us know when are they coming back. And if they don't fill that out, and sometimes it's very difficult getting them to turn. We've got some volunteers that come in and observe pretty regularly, but they never turn in a green card. And that means that somebody on one of the days of the week, somebody has to either email them or call them to see, when are you coming in and all that kind of, what age group do you want to see next and all that stuff. And so this is a time saver for volunteers that are onboarding people.
Okay.
And when I've mentioned like to Juanita that, so-and-so doesn't have a green card, but yes, they were there because they were marked as here. She's like, oh, I'm going to have to really start making sure that they turn those in. And then of course, next week, there's still people that haven't. So it's difficult to get them to always follow the procedures. But if they, I'll tell you, it's a piece of cake when they do what they're supposed to do and we get it and we just, put it in and it's done and everybody's good. Things run like clockwork. But we're working with people, so that never happens.
Great. Any thoughts?
And this is important to, especially if we don't, if this is a person that, let's say this is a person that has come in and they're called walk-ups. That means they just walk up without letting them know they're coming and without attending KC 101 or turning in an application. So they let them observe a room that has plenty of adults in it. And when they fill this out, they can put in all their contact information so that we can contact them and tell them about KC 101 and the application and all that good stuff. So this is usually left blank if they're already in the database and we've got all this. This also gives them a chance to let us know. Sometimes they do have a question or I want to volunteer in the same room as my 30-year-old daughter so we know what group that she wants to be in. Or I can only, I don't know, I'm going to be on vacation for the next 3 weeks, but then I can come in every other week or, they can tell us a little information that's sometimes good to have.
Okay. Good. One last thing I wanted to get your feedback on, and I don't know if you're super familiar with this area of the website. Do you go on to the crossroads.net website often?
Do I? Yes.
Okay. How often do you think, like per month, on average, do you go to the website?
At least weekly, because we review Brian's locker room, which comes out every Wednesday. Actually, my husband and I both, if we don't have to actually go on the site to do it, but we do the devotional that they have out every day of the week. And that's a Crossroads thing.
App.
And we often, when we don't get into a physical church on the weekends, we watch it online. So we are able to use this to go online and watch live. We always try to watch live. And if we can't do that, then we at least can watch the video.
Okay. Great. So I'm kind of curious about your feedback on this page. This is the serve page on crossroads.net. We've recently revamped this page a little bit, and it includes some information about Kids Club.
I've never actually seen this page.
Yeah, so just your
and if I have, I've ignored it because I already am serving.
Yeah, so just curious about your initial reaction to this page, the content that's provided, especially around Kids Club. So feel free to click around. I think you still have control of my desktop.
I can't see what's down here at the bottom. I can't scroll down. Does it give them different areas they can, is that what these squares are? Or is that a whole different thing?
You should have control of my desktop if you move your mouse.
I am.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
I don't know if it's working.
Oh.
I'll scroll for you.
Well, I've been told that, okay, I've been told that they can actually, like I said, they can actually get their applications online. So if they want to actually, can I click on this and see what that takes me to?
The Kids Club?
Well, this sign up to serve. Oh, it says already on a team, sign up to serve. Like if I saw this and I thought, oh, I want to sign up for Kids Club. Do I click on sign up to serve to go to get an application? Can I do that and look at it? Or not?
What would you expect if you clicked on sign up to serve?
I guess I would expect like that part of the application that says here's all the I don't know anything. Because now I'm thinking if I guess it's got to be a questionnaire asking me which one of these different areas do I want to serve in. You know what? I don't know. Maybe that's not true. Maybe there's an application that would cover everybody. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, so sign up to serve, and you probably don't use this in your role on the onboarding team, is the tool that existing volunteers use to sign up for specific service times. So that Kids Club leaders, volunteers understand how many people they have volunteering for the weekend. So it's kind of a sign up tool once you're already established on it.
Oh, so this is if I'm already in Kids Club volunteer, I can sign up when I wanted to come in. Right. Is that what it is?
Right. Yes.
Oh. Okay, so if I want to sign up for the first time, I have to actually click on my Kids Club.
Right.
Should I do it? Oh.
I did it for you.
Okay. And let's say I want to do it at Oakley. Although I'm not sure they're different, but.
Yeah, so I think essentially this is the paper form that we looked at previously.
Okay.
Actually, it's a lot more lightweight. There's only a few questions here, and I think it's around observing for the first time.
Yeah, this is nice. It's telling them, when do you want to come to KC 101? I assume that changes dates and times and stuff.
Yep.
But they can attend that, but it also lets people in Kids Club contact them as well. So I would assume then they go to KC 101 and that's where they get their applications. Although I thought they told me that you could get an application online now.
I think,
but maybe that's something that you'd have to do through them. Maybe they'll contact you and you might say, do you have online applications? And they might say, sure, we'll email you one. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure if there's other applications besides this one. But back to my question around roadblocks. Let's say we had an entire process on the website where you could sign up to observe, you could sign up to attend KC 101 like you can here, that there were potentially different checkpoints on the website where you could sign up to do these different things. And then as you completed those things, you could kind of work through the entire application process and then join the team. Do you think that would be more beneficial for people that are interested, or would it be more red tape, so to speak, of having to go through different sign up flows for each of those different things like observing or KC 101?
You'd have to do both, I would think, because some people either, don't feel comfortable doing things on a computer. Some people may not have a computer. Some people may not understand how to even use, how to even do it online. It depends. So I do know that there are people who would much prefer to do it. They want it to be paperless. Let's face it, the new generation makes it all paperless. And for them that feel comfortable with it, that would be great. It almost sounds like you're saying that if I was a volunteer going through the process, okay, I'm going to tell you when I'm going to come to KC 101, and then after that, then I'm going to tell you when I'm going to observe, when I'm coming in, and what grade level do I want to observe. And then I would go through the application, I think you said online. So it's almost like, and maybe I'm misreading it. So it's almost like, and you got to realize I'm old school, but it almost sounds like, okay, so they're doing it all themselves. So people like me don't have to. And yet, when I do it, and when Tuesday people do it, it's always difficult because some people sometimes don't do what they say or say what they do.
Right.
So I would think it would still have to be, and it has to be somebody that's, using their own database, making sure that, if they check this, then did they indeed show up at that time? And if they say they're going to observe next Saturday at 4:30 and they want to go to first graders, did they actually come? Next week, can they look back and say, yeah, they were actually there Saturday at 4:30 or not? You know what I'm saying? They still have to, you almost still have to I would think you'd still have to oversee it because people, like I mentioned to you before, I've had to get after people for applications. Sometimes they just didn't want to do it because they were afraid to, or sometimes they just didn't feel like they had references. I've had especially younger people that feel like I don't know who to use as a reference because they're not allowed to use family members. So we have to kind of talk them through that and who they can use. And so I can't see this being the only way.
That's fair.
I think you're going to get a lot of roadblocks of people if they have to get online and do this and make sure that the computers aren't crashing or there's some kind of glitch or something's going on. and they're, you know, and they do what they say they're going to do. And I, I mean, there's some people that could do that, that'd be fine, but there's other people, I think it would be a real roadblock for them to actually come in and serve, especially the older people. I hate to say that because I'm one of them, but I mean, I would do this online if I was told to, because I can, but I know some people that wouldn't or can't.
Okay, great. Well, I'm out of questions, believe it or not. So, and we're a little over time, so I want to.
Oh, sorry. It's
No,
probably because I talk too much.
you gave me some good feedback here. So we're kind of trying to figure out what the best approach is to kind of streamlining some of the process so we get a lot of the information electronically versus having to transcribe paper forms and things like that into spreadsheets and things like that. Um, so I don't want to kind of cut you loose without asking how you're doing with Crossroads. Do you need any support in any way from any leadership here? Because I've certainly asked you for a lot of information, and I don't want to just end the meeting without making sure you're doing okay. And if not, can I potentially refer you to anyone? Um,
I totally appreciate that. My husband and I love Crossroads, and at this point in time don't have any problems that, yeah, and know how we can get extra prayers or help or whatever from either our small group or whatever, or
okay.
whichever, whoever to call.
All right, great.
So yeah, I mean, we've got, you know, we know people on staff, and like I said, through small group and that kind of thing, that we can always find what we need, I think. And right now things are fine.
Okay, great. So thanks for your time again today, Joyce. And you have my email. So if you have any other aha moments after our meeting here, any other feedback around the process of onboarding people or anything you've heard from other people that did the onboarding process to sign up to volunteer, any sort of feedback like that, feel free to send me an email. And I guess we'll call it a day for now. So I appreciate your time and your
Okay.
feedback.
Okay. Well, I appreciate what you're doing, and I hope it works. I'm glad I can help out in any way I can.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Joyce. Take care.
Mhm. All right. Bye.